Welcome to Creative Love Radio, episode number 31. This episode is answering the 3 big questions in your life. You don't want to miss this. Stay tuned. Welcome to Creative Love Radio with Debbie and Dr. Rob. We are redefining relationships to guide you to greater love, more success, and living your purpose through the latest research in neuroscience, Jungian psychology, and Eastern wisdom. Get ready for another inspirational episode of Creative Love Radio. Episode number 31. This is Debbie Maldonado.
And who am I?
You're Dr. Rob.
I used to say when we first met that I was just an extra in the movie called Debbie.
But now you're my co-star. I let you share half the billing.
I know.
So we're really excited about this episode today, as always. It's your favorite subject. And these really big questions that we have to answer in life. And it's really going to be cool. But before we begin, let's talk about what's coming up for us this year. We have our big event in April in New York City. And not a big event. It's a workshop that we're doing.
It's a big event for me.
Okay. Because you love New York.
It's big in spirit, let's say. Not in numbers.
Not in volume, yes. It's going to be an intimate event in a loft in Soho. And actually the location of our very first event together.
That's right, yeah.
Back in 2012, we put an event together on love and money.
It seems like 4.5 years ago.
And so if you're in New York area, or if you can get to the New York area, or you're in another part of the world and say, I just want to be in the New York area, April 21st and 22nd, Creative Love Live. You can find out more by visiting our website and letting us know you're interested. There's a contact form there. Get all the information. And we're selling tickets now. They will probably sell out because we only have a certain amount of seats available. And what we're going to do there is really take you through a process of understanding who you really are beneath the mask of your persona, how you've been dating before and meeting people and getting into relationships. I'm really going deep to discover the true self that has that open heart, that has that really deep connection with another human being that's available to you.
Yeah, there's something magical about those groups that we can't really do through the courses or the classes online. Just being in person, and then the energy of the group, because we gather such incredible people together. It's so powerful for us as well as the participants. And
we have the rooftop available, so we take breaks on the rooftop, and we'll have a champagne toast Saturday night. And so it's really fun. It's very intimate, we're there the whole time. We're not like hiding behind the corner and just coming out on stage. You get to meet with us, talk with us on breaks. It's very intimate, really wonderful event. So we hope you come to Creative Love Live. That's April 21st and 22nd. So let's talk about these questions, Rob.
Yeah.
What are they and how do we answer them?
They're 3 simple questions, but nobody gets out the door unless they answer these questions. It's almost
what
like
door?
The door of life. It's like the Sphinx. When the hero comes to an impasse and it's guarded by the Sphinx, the Sphinx gives the hero a riddle that must be solved before they can pass. So in a sense, these questions are those riddles for us. And they're very simple. One of the first questions is, what are you going to do about love? And we'll talk about all that entails as we go along. The second one is, what are you going to do about money? And all that entails. And the third one is, what about God? And all its manifest forms and questions. And we'll talk about that as well. So let's go back to the first one. What are you going to do about love?
Yep. you and I joke around a lot about people that come up to us at events and they find out we help people with love, and they say, "Oh, I'm not looking for a relationship right now," or "I'm not ready for a relationship right now," or "I'm not really interested in finding a relationship. I'm going to work on my career, and that's not a focus for me." And it's almost like that defensive, I don't want to put energy to that, but it's not at a choice. It's more, I can't figure it out, so I'm not going to deal with it.
Yeah.
And so the question has to be answered. Even if you push it away, even if you say, I'm not going to focus on it right now, it's underneath that question has to be answered. And it will tear you apart at the end of your life if you don't answer that.
Yeah, so we think of the scope of the question. It's not only talking about a relationship, but it's talking about your heart. Are you going to be open to other people in your life? Are you going to let them in? Mm-hmm. Are you going to be connected in a real, genuine, emotional way? Or are you going to defend and protect yourself? And, we're not saying there's a right or wrong way, but you have to answer that question for yourself. Mm-hmm. And it's a very important one because it will determine the extent of those relationships that you create with other people, whether it be in business, with your family, with your colleagues, with your friends, and then with that very special one person that you decide to bond with in an incredible way. It's going to determine that level of intimacy, that level of connectedness that's there. So that question plays out in all those different ways, and it has all those nuances about it. And
you feel like there are also, love is not just between a man and a woman, but it's between family, children, your friendships.
And most importantly,
yourself.
That's right.
The feeling and the self-love, that tenderness that we need to ourselves is probably the most important relationship. And most of us beat ourselves up so much for the things we don't do right and the things we don't have yet and the things that we need to do better at, and we don't leave room for that love. And so answer that question, what do I do about love, also includes ourselves.
Yeah, absolutely. And the higher teachings always just talk about this idea that you cannot love others if you don't love yourself. Mm-hmm. A lot of people think, well, I'm okay with loving others, but to me, I'm just going to, tear myself down and be depressed and anxious and all this stuff. No, that's not real love. That's putting off the facade of love and saying, oh, others deserve love, but not me. Mm-hmm. You cannot really love, and you cannot experience love without also loving yourself, right? Respecting, honoring your life, treating yourself as a gift that God has given you to be here. The body, the mind, the existence that is given you.
Also, the idea that you deserve, and it's your purpose to love, that you're not fated to be alone and to be loveless, that it's your right, divine right, to have love. So you have to answer that question because it's there for you,
right? And
to trust in that the puzzle. It's like you said, the Sphinx. So the puzzle is there. And I know I can relate to many of you who've been single for a long time or been in relationship that doesn't work out. And I ask myself that question all the time: is what do I do about love? But it was always, is it even possible for me? Is it ever going to happen? And you have to trust that it's going to find you. And that's really, you ask the question and you keep taking steps toward answering that question, you will find love. And again, with yourself first, then it'll show up in other people.
So we see the scope of the question, and then the scope of the answer has to be a very personal one. It's got to be you coming to terms with your decisions around relationships, around your status in your family, your approach to work, to life, to yourself. All those decisions that you've made, you have to come to terms with them somehow. If you leave them unanswered, you don't bring closure to them, you don't really answer them in a true sense, it'll come back to haunt you. And you'll feel that you'll have that regret. Often I would see people at the end of their life with that regret about not doing this or that, not saying this or that to their loved ones or to somebody they know, or that somebody special in their lives, or simply in their own relationship with their own heart, with their own emotional life. So that's the essence of it. It's not that there's a right or wrong answer to these things. Is that you have to really take stock and inventory of what is my answer to life's question about love, and really take some time, devote some energy to it, make it a priority. In other words,
because you have to answer that question sooner or later.
Right. And it's better sooner than later. And really, when we're in the middle of life, in the midst of life, wherever we are in that middle area, it's a great time to do it, because it will give you direction, meaning in your relationships with yourself and with others.
So the next question is, what do I do about money?
Yes.
And a lot of people say, money's not important to me. My spiritual life is more important, or I do what I love, and money's not a big deal. Money can't make you happy. But we have to deal with money. Unless we live in an island somewhere where we're sharing coconuts with other people.
Castaway.
Yes, maybe Gilligan didn't have to deal with money, but we really do. We need to deal with it and cope with it, whether it's the choices we make about our lifestyle, the choices we make with our careers and our purpose, the choices we make of spending. We have to answer that question. And many people don't want to deal with money. They end up going into a lot of debt because they don't want to face money questions. They stay stuck in a career that they're not happy with just because of the paycheck, because they don't want to deal with the uncertainty of money. And then there's people that wait their whole life and they think, I would really love to travel the world, and I would love to have nice things, and I would love to live in a different city and have these experiences, but I don't have the money. And they don't want to deal with the money. They just want to accept the money they have and try to cope with life that way and not really open up the question about it.
Yeah. So obviously the way we are phrasing the question is just a succinct way of doing it. But the scope of the question involves your higher purpose.
Yes.
What are you doing here on earth? What are you here to do? It's not to live in that cubicle or go to that cubicle and stay
pay your
there
bills.
There's nothing wrong with those things, and we've all done those things perhaps, and maybe you're still doing it. Nothing wrong with it. But you have to answer the philosophical question of, what is my higher purpose here? And can I somehow dedicate this work that I'm doing in the cubicle to that higher purpose? At least that. That's the very least. At the most, that question will lead us to finding our great purpose in life. The burning passion that we're here to do in this life, that gives us a mission, that gives us our sense of being in the world. And that's the most powerful thing. If you see people that are really doing their higher purpose, they're doing great things, not because of the money they're making or the acclaim that they get from others. It's that they're fulfilling their purpose. And it could be being a gardener. It could be, anything. or saving the world, or creating like Elon Musk that's going to Mars and those kind of things. Whatever it is for you, it's your particular purpose.
And I think when you say the question, I think people ask themselves the question all the time is, what do I do about money? Is what do I pay this month in bills? And do I spend money on this or that? How much is my groceries? Can I afford to go out to dinner? What can I do for vacation? You're thinking about money a lot, but you're not asking the bigger question around money is, how can I have more? How can I use it for my purpose? You're answering the question in a very small way. So look at that. How are you asking yourself that question? How are you dealing with the question of money? Is it in just survival, or is it in really creating a higher purpose and having a bigger life?
Yep.
So the third one.
Oh, wait, I'm not ready to go move on.
Okay.
Because there's another element that's really important in kind of assessing where you are with this question. And you can ask yourself this: am I serving money, or is money serving me? And what that means is simply this: if you're working to pay the bills and your existence is about survival, you're working for money. You're enslaved by it, my friend, whether you like it or not. And the thing is that society will applaud you for that. They say
he's responsible, or she's responsible.
Yeah, she's a hard worker. He's a hard worker. He just puts down his head and goes to work and does what he has to do to pay the bills. And
like Willie Loman, the salesman.
Yeah, and that is not the fulfillment of our higher purpose in life. The fulfillment of our higher purpose in life is to be doing what we're here to do. Again, whether it be being a gardener or being an astronaut, we're doing it. And money is serving us in that purpose, in that higher purpose. That's where we want to be. Mm-hmm. If you answer the question in the right way, it will give you a good sense of where you are. Are you serving money, or is money serving you? Answer that question, and it will lead you then to the bigger answer of your life, of what do I do about money? Then we can move on.
Thank you very much.
To the third one.
Well, this is the big one, is what do I do about God?
Yeah.
What do we do about my spiritual life? What is the purpose of life? And where do I stand with the universe? What is my relationship with the universe or higher spiritual realms? Do I believe I'm a part of this beautiful spiritual life, or am I just a human being and I die and that's it? The lights out. What do I? And I think we all ask that question, even if you're an atheist. Yeah. You had to ask that question to get the answer that you don't believe there's anything. So,
yeah. Or the answer could be right that we're just biological beings, and you die when you die, right? The lights go out, and that's it. Whatever your answer is, you're going to have to live with it, basically, and you're going to have to come to terms with it. So we're not saying there's a right or wrong way to answer that question, but you have to answer it for yourself. You have to come to terms with that.
And so when you're on your deathbed and you're wondering what happens when the lights do turn off, that's really where most people start asking that question. Even people that are very religious, they just assume that what they were raised and what the Bible says, or what their religion says, the Quran or whatever, the Talmud, they take the word of God in the Bible, but maybe they never questioned it. Maybe they never really had that deeper question, and all that starts to show up at the end. So it's better to ask it now. And I think asking that question, what do I do about God, leads to what do I do about money and what do I do about love? I mean, it all goes together, because that question will dictate how you answer those other two questions.
Absolutely.
Because do you believe in that you're just a human biological being that's looking for another person to have sex with and have procreation and have a family and live, get the most out of the material world and then you're gone? Or are you have a spiritual soulmate that you're trying to find? Are you there here to make money and take advantage of the material world again, and or just do your part, work hard? Or are you having a spiritual mission on life for your purpose? So the way you answer, what do I do about God, really encompasses your whole life in those all the questions.
Yes. In positive psychology, they talk about happiness, the big H, being made out of three components: pleasure, physical, emotional, mental pleasure that either we get from relationships, from making money and spending the money on the things that we love and giving people what they love, and we derive pleasure from that. That's the first element of happiness. The second one is engagement, meaning...
Getting engaged?
It could be, yeah. Right? It could be, because instead of just the pleasure of sensuality, of dating and being with another body, we move to the engagement of the emotions, meaning we're committing, right? We're committing the emotions to this relationship. And in the work sphere, it means that we are devoting our energy and our life and our creativity to this work. So it's very different than just doing a job just to pay the rent. You're engaged in something bigger than yourself.
Like pleasure would be, you can pleasure yourself, or you could be in a relationship just for you and your own pleasure. And it doesn't mean you be alone. You could be with another person and be self-centered about your own pleasure. Or when you're fully engaged, you're really caring about what that other person feels. You care about their well-being. It's not just about you. That's engagement.
So you have pleasure, engagement, and then the third one, which goes to this third question of what do I do about God? What is my spiritual orientation? Is meaning. Because ultimately what gives us happiness as human beings is meaning. We all know that pleasure, it's temporary. It fades. If you do something that's pleasurable, then next time you need to do it more, or you need more of it. And then after a while, you get sick of it.
It's impermanent.
Yeah, it's very, very fragile, very spontaneous, and not very long-lasting. Engagement takes us to that second level of, okay, we're doing something where we're putting an effort, and it's giving us that joy of the flow. When people talk about flow, being in the creative flow, it's that they're engaged in this activity. And it's not necessarily pleasant sometimes. It might be hard work, but it's giving you that engagement, and it's leading you to a sense of happiness. But the ultimate for us is meaning. That this is meaningful for us. This has the passion of meaning for me. When we find that meaning, and this third question is about that. It's, what is the meaning of your life? What is the meaning of your relationships, and what is the meaning of your work? So this third question wraps it all up. It really brings everything into its fullness. And you have to answer it for yourself. And again, there's no right or wrong way to do it, but you have to engage with the question, what do I believe? What is my ultimate experience of my spiritual self? Or do I believe that I do have a spiritual self at all? If that's all there is, right, my biology, then you're going to have to come to terms with that.
And so most people in the world, they ask these questions, but like I said, they answer them in very limited ways and just survival ways. How do I get married? And how do I make the bills? And how do I go? Where do I go to church? But they're not asking it in the big way of the bigger picture. And when we open up these questions, they really aren't. You really never fully find the answer completely. It's this unfolding question that you keep asking yourself. So it's not that, I found love, the answer to love. Okay, I'm done. I've got to find the answer to money. It's a constant, the person that is in a growth mode is always never satisfied with the answer. It is always seeking a bigger, asking the question over and over. And a lot of times we think that brings more problems into our life, that brings more obstacles into our life because we're kind of going for something more than the ordinary person. But I believe that it really makes life worth living. And, Rilke has a beautiful saying about going toward a difficult, like these questions are difficult to answer and difficult to pursue. And he says this: if we only arrange our life in accordance with the principle which tells us that we must trust always in the difficult, then what now appears to us as the most alien will become our most intimate and trusted experience. How could we forget those ancient myths that stand at the beginning of all races, the myths about dragons that at the last moment are transformed into princesses? Perhaps all the dragons in our lives are princesses who are waiting for us to see us act just once with beauty and courage. That was
beautiful.
Rilke. Beautiful. He has so many great quotes, but I just love that quote because a lot of people ask, is it harder to ask those questions than to be in ignorance? And really, this is why we're here. This is why we're here. So the 3 questions, Rob?
Yeah.
What are we going to do about love? What are we going to do about money? And what are we going to do about God? And when you meet your partner, if you're in a relationship or you're dating someone, those are great questions to ask. Mm-hmm. Ask what about the two of you together. What are you going to do together? How are we going to build together? This is the deep philosophical questions of the universe. And we all, as human beings, we wrestle with them. And if we don't answer the questions or even go toward them, they'll almost eat at us. It'll feel this sense of discomfort that we're not answering those questions. And in the quest for them is where all the joy is.
Absolutely. So let us know what you think. Join us on Facebook. We have that
Creative Love Community.
Creative Love Community, where you can post questions. You can give us some feedback on what you think about these things.
And we also have a free visualization and video course. If you go to attractgreatlove.com, you'll see my little video there. Fill out your name and email and get these 3 videos and visualization on physical attraction and really work with the unconscious and begin to answer those questions of what am I going to do about love? So thanks again for joining us for Creative Love Radio. Let us know what you think. If you have ideas for topics you'd like us to cover, visit us at Creative Love Community and we'll interact with you live.
See you soon.
Take care.
Much love.
You've been listening to Creative Love Radio with Debbie and Dr. Rob. For more information, visit us on our website at creativelove.com.